Hey, hello. Today we have Zani Yve, intuitive soul coach and channeler, here with us to share all things about this very interesting topic that's very close to my heart. Welcome, Zani. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, I am very excited about this. Why don't you first introduce yourself and tell people what you do?
Okay, so I am Zani Yve, as she stated. I am an intuitive soul coach. I help people to do a number of things to develop their own intuition, to strengthen their own intuition. And also, I do sessions, what I call soul coaching sessions, to help people find direction, get guidance, get clear on things, especially people who are at a crossroads in their lives, who are ready to make a change, but maybe aren't completely sure what that change is. So, using intuition and channeling, I help them to find that clarity and empower them to make those choices and those changes that they're ready to make.
Beautiful.
That's what I
Let's
do.
have a couple of definitions first, because I feel like I don't know. I feel like people have the kind of their own definitions of each of these things. So when you say, first of all, I'll start with the channeling. When you say, okay, I'm a channeler and this is the modality that I use, what does that mean to you?
To me, it means that so everybody, we're always channeling, first of all. This is not some, supernatural thing. It may not feel natural to most people only because they haven't thought about it in this way or they haven't developed that skill yet. But if you think about it, we're always channeling, whether it's our own ideas in our head, in our minds, or we're channeling other people's ideas and that we've learned or that we've adopted for our own. Um, Channelers, we tend to channel information that comes from the other realms, the invisible realms, as I like to call them. So, whether it is people are maybe familiar with the idea of guides or masters or higher self, the universe, whatever whatever word or definition or label that you give to higher consciousness, that's basically what I am channeling. So it's information that really everybody can learn how to access this information. And sometimes for me as a channeler, it it's it's coming down, it's like a download that is so, I guess, quick and intense that it's just easier for me to kind of step out of the way and let that come through. So it comes through without me quoting. Okay, so it's not like reported speech when I hear something and then I report what I hear, if that makes sense. I'm not a trance channeler, so I don't go into a trance. I don't alter in any way. What does happen is that my cadence changes a bit. Actually, even sometimes words that I use I would not normally use as Zani Yve. So there might be some vocabulary or expressions that come through that I've not ever thought of or used. And so that's kind of what channeling means to me.
So interesting. So when you're doing these sessions, so let's say, okay, somebody's coming to you, and I'm going to talk about this from business perspective because these are my people and what we talk about here. So let's say somebody comes to you and they're like, I don't know what to do, where to take my business next. I don't know what's the right path for me. When you say, okay, I'm going to channel this, are you giving, but what's the process? What would that look like for your clients?
Okay. First of all, I don't go straight into channeling. Okay, I'll just go into my own intuition. I tune in to their frequency. If you know how the intuition works, I turn into their frequency. Also, for those who might be familiar with the concept again of masters and guides and so forth, I believe that we all have our team, okay, of higher evolved forms of consciousness that help us and guide us. So I tune into that frequency of information for them. as well as my own team that works with me, right? And so I listen to their words. Let's say I'm in a session with a client. I listen to what they are saying. And so the words have a certain frequency, certain vibrations. The emotions come through what they're saying. And so that's where I'm tuning into then the frequency of that, whether there's dread or doubt or, fear or excitement or anticipation. So depending on what they're asking, I can tune in and figure out what's the real question? Because there's always a real question behind the question that we verbalize,
Yes, 100%.
right? So I'm ready to go to the next level. Okay, so next level, I will ask them, define that for me. What does that mean to you? Exactly like you asked me, what does channeling mean to you? Because I have to work with where they're at, with their frequency, with their belief system. So I also don't just go in immediately and say, well, your team is telling me this, because not everybody understands that, okay? But everybody does understand higher wisdom. Everybody, I think, does understand higher self, their best self. So it just depends. I'm careful to use vocabulary that people are comfortable with, because otherwise I can't be of service to them. So I would start like that. I would listen to what they have to say, what their questions are. I tune into the frequency and the energy of those questions, and then I, in turn, ask more questions, so that ultimately they are led to their own realizations and their own conclusions. If people are stuck, I just keep asking rephrasing questions. I might make suggestions or offer possible perspectives on things, but I never impose what I think they should do. And then should is such a heavy word too. Should is not a great word to work with. Should I do this? Should I do that? So we look into the whole shoulds. So it's an exploratory process, but one that mostly they are led,
Right.
okay, through the question and answer process. Yeah.
You know what I love about this and how you explained it is that when you say, like, not you, but when the hypothetical you, when somebody says, yes, I work with people and I'm channeling and whatnot, it can sound either really intimidating, or it could sound really like, this is some crap. Like, what is this shit? Like, okay. And the way then that you go and describe the process, it is not that much different than coaching, than these other things, these kind of quote unquote mainstream modalities. But you are just so much more in tune with the intuition and what's underlying everything, because this is your craft, right? This is what you do. So you can pick up on these things that maybe other people cannot. So I hope that takes away some of the like mystique around it, and the, like kind of the, I don't want to say like, well, that's weird. I don't want to do that. Because when you describe it, it's like, oh no, like that makes perfect sense, right? Like it's really interesting.
Yeah, we take away the woo-woo aspect. So, and again, there's nothing woo-woo about energy. And when you understand energy and frequency, people talk a lot about, ooh, vibe, I'm going to vibe, positive vibes, good vibes, I'm sending you good vibes. So it's become really kind of cliche, the whole thing about vibe, and not everybody uses it understanding what it means, but it's a real thing. And again, anyone can learn how to hone in on this and get very, very good at it. And so that's also part of what I do in the soul coaching, is I always encourage people to understand that even in these sessions, they are tuning into their higher frequencies and their higher self. So I'm just helping interpret that. I'm just helping them interpret that and see it and experience it in a different way. So it's not ever me and my opinions, ever. It's not me saying, well, this is what you should do, and I think you should do that, because it's not my life, it's their life. I've just, as you say, I've developed this skill. I know this language because I'm speaking and communicating in this language all the time with the unseen realms. And so I'm just kind of an interpreter for them.
Beautiful. And on that, let's shift over more towards the intuition side, because this is something that I find and that I talk about all the time with my own clients. And it is really, to me, like, intuition is key is such a fundamental key to having and growing a business, anything in life, but again, talking about business. So like having and growing a business that is not only sustainably successful, but one that you actually love and one that you are looking forward to. And there are so many instances that I can see from my own journey where I didn't listen to, I didn't even think to tap into my own intuition and my own anything. And I just went down a whole pathway of things that I wasn't supposed to be doing. And then when I realized
Yeah.
this and when I started learning more about it and shifted, it made all the difference in the world, like increased my confidence in my decisions and and everything just feels better. It feels so good. And, so it's like, to me, it's like everybody needs to learn to develop their intuition. So if we back up 15 steps, if you were to define intuition, what would you define it as? This is a test you didn't know.
For me,
You signed up to have a quiz.
Yeah. Oh God, I didn't study. Intuition for me now at this point in my life is really, it's my most authentic voice.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's the purest voice of my soul, and it's just, I can't go any further than that. It's my most authentic voice is my intuition. And so when I tune in for myself, that's what I'm listening to. The practice of developing intuition involves a lot of stillness and reflection and sitting and, maybe even talking to yourself, your higher self, hopefully, to the point where you recognize when it's the purest voice coming from your soul, because it's free. It's completely free of anything that would make you nervous or afraid. It's your purest voice, your own intuition will give you such certainty and such a sense of calm that right away in an instant that's your purest voice, that's your purest intuition. When I tune into my intuition in terms of other people, I'm tuning into their potential, let's say, because I'm not them. I'm not in their head. I'm not a mind reader. But I can see the frequency where they're vibrating, but I also get a sense of their greatness. I also get a sense of their ultimate potential and what their options are at this very moment. And so that's something that I can present to them and say, okay, from this moment where you are right now, these are the options that are presenting themselves or that are around you. These are the potentials that you have from where you are right now in this point. So intuition for me is that when I'm tuning in for myself, it's my purest voice. And then when I'm tuning in for other people, it's just seeing through my intuition, picking up on their frequency, I could see what potentials and possibilities they have in the energy that is around them.
This is like you give me chills. Like I love it. So so let's say somebody's like, okay, like I get this and I want to develop my intuition. I want to go deeper. How do where would they even start? Like, so what would be some like very basic steps that you would recommend for somebody who's like, how do I learn to develop and trust my own intuition?
The first step would be to carve out a time and a space where you can sit with yourself, because you've got to know yourself better than anyone else on the planet. You've got to know yourself. And so for some people, it could be very uncomfortable to sit with themselves, but that's the starting point. And so everyone needs to figure out how they're going to do that and what that looks like for them. So sitting and spending time with yourself may not be actually physically sitting down. It might be taking a walk. Nature is the best place to get in tune with yourself. So it could be that you develop a practice of taking a 10-minute walk every morning, but with a purpose of, okay, I'm spending this time with me, very much like you would take a walk with a friend. If you take a walk with a friend, you're not going to ignore them. You're going to listen to them. You're going to spend time with them. You're going to be present. So that's the same attention that you need to have when you are with yourself.
So you're not going to have your AirPods in and listening to your podcasts on your walk in nature.
No. You're going to have your energetic AirPods in and tuning into your own energy field and just get to know yourself. That's the first place. We're not taught how to do this. We're not taught to be alone and still and be comfortable with it. Most people are so uncomfortable. And I think that's why starting a meditation practice is so challenging, because we don't even know how to sit still with ourselves. How am I going to sit still and try and meditate if I can't even be with myself? So, and being with yourself is a form of meditation, but you've got to be prepared to take the time, first of all, because it takes time to tune in and be with you and be present with you without any distractions, even if it's just your thoughts going round and round, because at first it's kind of hard. Just be present with your thoughts going round and round. And then you build up from there. It's tiny baby steps and without judgment, but consistent. And then from there on, yes, you develop a practice of then actually sitting in meditation. And then you can use all kinds of different tools that will help you to develop that skill, to develop that muscle. But as a first step, it's that.
It's so, like, what I find interesting about this is that it sounds so simple, and the simplest thing, it can often be the most challenging. It's like, what do you mean my life is going to change if I go for a 10-minute walk every day in nature? But it will, like if you're doing these these things intentionally, it's going to change your life.
Right. We're so used to thinking that we've got to work really hard for things. And it's like that we spend half of our lives trying to work hard. I've got to work hard at this. I've got to fight. I've got, I'm a soul warrior. I'm a, fight for what is right. And it's not about fighting. It's about this. It's about the simple things. It's about sitting, knowing yourself, and allowing things. Once you know yourself, then you know when something is for you and when it's not. You know when someone is for you and when it's not. You know if the next step in your business is going to be for you or not. You just know because you know yourself, That's the thing. And it's extremely simple, but it's hard because we feel like we're not doing anything.
Right.
I'm just taking a walk and being quiet. Well, I should be doing something. Well, you're doing the most important thing you could possibly do, which is not doing your being. The whole point is that we have to understand that being is an action, and it's the best action that we can take is to be, not to do.
Right. And I think that another piece of this is when you are being intentional and stop and pausing and say, okay, I need to make a decision, whatever decision it is. And let's say, okay, I need to make this business decision. And you start to just be intentional about that, then I think also that makes a huge difference. So instead of let me make the pros and cons list and the, this and that, and what's the best thing that this person over here told me to do and whatnot. But if you're just intentionally like, okay, I need to do this, or this is presented to me, what should I do? So I'll give you an example. I'll give two personal examples, and
okay,
two for the price of one. So there was so years ago at the beginning of my business. So here's an example of what not to do or what led me down a road that was not aligned. It was, I started as a general virtual assistant, getting all of these clients, and I kept having clients come to me, very fortunate in that way. And then it was like, well, what do I do? And it was like, well, the only new thing that I knew to do, or like the only option that was presented to me, was hire some more people and hire people, serve these clients. Except that lasted for a few months because that was shitty. Like, I didn't want to do that. That was the decision of my business leading me and me not stopping or like paying attention, and just like, I just made this decision from not from me, it came from outside of me.
Yeah.
And now, so fast forward, okay, yes, we've resolved all of these issues. Fast forward to now and the past couple of years, year and a half or so, when it comes to making decisions, I have, and I don't know how, it's an interesting process because I don't know how it happened. Like, I can't tell you the steps that it happened, but I have stepped into this realm of, okay, here's a thing I have to make a decision on. What do I want to do? I can feel like physically, like I feel like a ping and I sit with it. And then I very strongly will feel like yes or no, this is the thing I do or this is the thing I don't do. And then I just learn to trust it. And I think that's a second. So there's like a lot of things in these stories, but like that's another thing too, is right. Like when you feel these things and you're just like, okay, let me go with it. So I'm going to pause the story because there's another part, but I want to get your feedback or any thoughts that came up from you from all of my ramblings.
Okay. Well, first of all, you mentioned that, the fast forward part that you asked yourself, what do I want to do? And that's really, really important. A lot of times when I sit and I ask my guides or my higher self, what should I do? The response is, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Right? Again, that should. Should is such a loaded word. What should I do? Well, they're like, what do you want to do? Well, I want to earn a lot of money. Okay, but at what cost? At any cost? Because then there's a lot of options to accomplish that. But what do you want to do? And how do you want to feel when you're doing it? So it's really, really important. Again, back to being with yourself. You're not sure, you said you're not sure what the process was, but I'm positive that somewhere along the way, you began to spend time with yourself. And that's why you recognize something feels right, because you physically are tuning into what aligns with me and what doesn't align with me. So somewhere along this process, whether it's known to you or not, you began to spend time, quality time with yourself. That's why you know. That's why you just know. Yeah, so I find that to be really interesting. And then I forgot what else.
I know, it's a really long story.
I forgot what else you said.
The physical sensation.
Yeah.
So for me, right, I have a physical sensation, maybe in my gut. I don't know. It's like this quick flash. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then I know to pay attention to that. Does this look different? So this is for me, this is my intuition. So how can this look for people?
Yeah. It could look a number of ways. And I think this is another really good point in terms of developing your intuition and just getting more in tune with yourself. When you sit and spend time with yourself and the process of learning to know yourself, you can establish what a yes and what a no feels like. Okay? You can establish that for yourself. So when you make a decision that aligns with you, I think most everybody automatically will have a sensation of relief, of joy, of pleasure, some type of euphoric something that tells them this is right. Okay, so when you're in that space and you feel that this is right, just make a mental note and say, okay, this is a yes, brain, this is a yes, okay? This is what yes feels like. This is what green light feels like. And you can even close your eyes and visualize for people who are visual, I'm extremely visual and I love working with symbols. Okay, this is a green light. This is what it feels like. I'm telling my mind that this is what it feels like. So my mind can also flash an image alongside with the physical vibration that I feel. And then a no, like if you can also just recall or conjure up a memory of a really strong no, like, oh my God, no, that is not for me. And say, okay, mind, this is a no. This is a red light. Okay. And so it's kind of like you're educating your mind to help you and to work along with your intuition. Because sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes our intellect wants to go another way because it's just working on what has happened in the past. Mm-hmm. Okay, the mind is always bouncing off of what happened before. It's recalling things, whereas intuition is always in the present moment and looking forward to opportunity.
This is such a good distinction.
So that's the difference.
Wait, we need to I want to say this again because that is such a good, it's so important. It's such a good distinction because a lot of times people make decisions with their mind, with their brain, right? So you said your mind is based on the past, on experiences. Yes.
Right.
And your intuition.
Right. The mind conjures up decisions. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The mind will start making decisions based on what happened in the past. But intuition is all about being in this present moment and looking forward to what is possible in the future.
Yes. And this is scary.
Doesn't that? I mean,
yeah,
I just.
No, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I just got chills. I just got chills saying that because it's the truth. That's again, truth. The truth will give you chills through your body. you suddenly get this like, oh my God, it's like this aha moment. And you thought that is true because I just got chills. It's true because then your body's like, whoo, that's it.
But
Right?
here's the thing, though, is that I think this is also why people have a difficult time tuning into this, is because it shows you your true potential and your possibilities. And that's scary. That can be scary,
It is
right?
scary.
Like you might not be prepared for all that's possible. So it's safer, you
Right.
know, quote unquote,
Oh, yeah.
to have your mind make these decisions rather than trust yourself, trust
Yeah.
your intuition, and trust these possibilities, and just step in and say, okay, I'm ready for this.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what is so cool about intuition is that when we're projecting and looking at the future possibilities or probabilities, if you think about it as something that already exists, okay? So we talk about now the quantum field of possibilities. All of these possibilities already exist. So you don't have to worry that it's not going to happen. Okay? The fact that you can imagine it means that the potential is there for it to exist. So all you need to do is figure out the little steps, cross that bridge. That's all you need to do. So it takes the scariness out of it. Maybe it's something that you have not
Right.
done, so you're not sure how to do it. But if you imagine that it's your future self, okay, so we're getting a little abstract here. If you imagine that your future self has already accomplished this, everything is just energy anyway, you can actually tune into the frequency of your future self and ask her, how did I accomplish this? How did I do this? Okay, that's a little
No,
out
but
there for
that's so
some people.
powerful. That's not out there at all. Though this is so like no, my people are soulful. It's fine, you know, like, but this is so powerful. It is such a
Yeah.
powerful tool,
Yeah.
you know, to have and to use, because like that reframe. Oh, like I can't have no words. I have
Yeah.
no words on this for the podcast.
Yeah. Well, because, we're looking at, people talk about, visualization and
Yeah.
manifestation. And that's just, to me, that seems so out there. Like, okay, so I visualize and I imagine myself this way. But when you shift that and you put it into this quantum field of possibilities that exists, this very real possibility already exists, it really is. You're just walking across the bridge. It's like, oh, okay. So if I can witness myself, that's another word I like to use a lot. I can witness myself in the future. I just have to talk to my future potential and say, okay, how did we accomplish this? And I do this all the time. This is like a new realization for me. It's not something that I've been practicing for a long time, but it works. It works.
And it's so interesting to you. So it's so interesting that to you that like manifestation, all these things are like, what? How does that work? You know, because they're so mainstream at this point. Like everybody, I don't know, you can scroll on TikTok for 5 minutes and come across 5 manifestation videos, like, and
Right.
but yeah, like to me, your way, like that way resonates so much because it feels more concrete. You're like, obviously,
Right.
of course. And like, what a beautiful way to
Yeah.
learn to build up confidence and to learn to trust yourself and to just do it and get
Yeah.
rid of all of this like imposter syndrome and doubt and all of that, like they kind of just melt away when you can tap into this track
Yeah.
and have
So
her guide
if you
you.
can,
Yeah, no,
oh,
I'm
sorry.
just babbling. Good.
Right. No, because if you can, okay, if you are able to already visualize things, just bump it up a step and just witness your future self. Witness that future self and just walk towards that. That's kind of it.
You're like, it's so simple.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it all. It like takes all of this kind of like super woo whatever and really makes it concrete, like Like it makes sense. I mean, I believe in all these things, so it doesn't like it's not like super woo to me,
Yeah.
but to a lot of people
Yeah.
it is. But it feels so concrete when you're talking about it and having this conversation. So so I love this. I love all of these kind of different techniques and things that you talked about, and I am curious specifically for so my audience of soulful service providers, business entrepreneurs, people who work online. If you have, and they're trying to grow their business, step into really the true thing that they are meant to be doing. So, from everything that we have been talking about, if you were to kind of like summarize it, kind of give like, I don't know, like your kind of top, I don't say recommendations, but like what you're really like feeling into from this, like for them, I think that they would love to hear that.
Yeah. Well, firstly, always start by tuning into yourself. Okay. Start by tuning into yourself. Take the time. It may take a couple of sessions of you tuning into yourself and ask yourself, what does my future self look like? Okay. What does my future self look like in 5 years? So if I'm considering this direction, what does that look like, me in the next 5 years going down this road? Okay. And how did I get there? Okay. What wisdom does that person have to share back with me? What would I ask that person? What were the steps? Okay. So that's the one direction. And then take the other direction. If you've got two directions. So what does this look like? Yeah, what does this direction look like for me? What does that future self, my future self, what does she look like? Is she happy? What is she doing? What are the steps that she took to get there? And how can I move forward in that direction? That's what I would start with. And then see, how does that feel? Tuning into your body. Does that feel good? Does that feel like hard work for nothing? Or does that feel like hard work that I will enjoy because I know what's on the other side of the hard work, right? I think we also have to have an idea of what's waiting for us on the other side, okay? And what we want to encounter on the other side of this. It can never just be about growing an audience or growing the business or the bigger paycheck, because that's not ever going to truly align with your soul. Ever. So I would say you've got to think in terms of what other type of wealth am I going to acquire? What other form of wealth am I going to amass?
Meaning, so give some
by following
examples
this,
if you don't mind.
Friendships, relationships, contacts, joy for myself, a feeling of accomplishment, a feeling of, feeling purposeful in life, knowing myself more. I think the ultimate gift in life is really knowing yourself, and to thine own self be true. That's the ultimate power and the ultimate freedom, is knowing yourself more, because we're always evolving. We're always changing and shifting and growing. So we never, ever get to a place where we fully know ourselves. That's the joy of it, because we're going to continue to get to know ourselves. And the more we know ourselves, the more full we become, the more we can be present for others, right? And so especially in service providers, you can't really give what you don't have, and if you're providing a service to help other people know themselves or grow in their own business, how are you going to do that if you're not as full as you can be in this moment? I hope that answered the question. I already forgot the original question.
I think it did, yes, 100%. So basically
Okay.
really the top things that you would recommend. So yes,
Yeah.
amazing. So this very powerful conversation, and we haven't talked about this, but I wanted to perhaps drop a little hint as to something coming up in the future. So
Okay.
this is my other
Yeah.
story of trusting my intuition, because Zani, my guest here, had approached me one day and asked me how I felt about co-leading a retreat. And my first response was one of complete and utter fear and doubt. And what is she, crazy? Like, who's going to do join me and her on a retreat? What? And then I said, okay, let me sit with this. And so I sent you that message, right? And I said, this is what's coming up for me. Let me sit with it for a second. And then you further explain something, like I asked them further explain some things, and I sat with it and I got really excited and I was like, yes, like that would be amazing. So I don't know if you want to speak to anything about that, but this was me. This decision to say, yes, let's co-lead a retreat together was 100% me trusting my intuition.
Yay. Well, I think, I still sometimes, I think imposter syndrome is very normal. It's very real. And like I said, since we're constantly evolving, we're constantly growing, we're ultimately going to get to a place where then suddenly we feel like an imposter again.
Oh yeah, this is always happening.
Because we've expanded.
Right.
We've expanded. So now at this level, I'm like, oh,
Right.
so I think that's totally normal. But what I love about your process is that you sit with yourself. Again, this is back to the point. You have, whether you know it or not, cultivated a practice of, okay, I'm feeling this. Let me sit with it. Let me process it, and then get to the bottom of it. Get to the other side
And
of
the
it.
actual truth, right? Like the actual truth. Yeah.
Exactly. The actual truth is you'd be really super freaking excited about doing this, but then suddenly the mind comes in and goes, oh, but wait, who are you to lead a retreat?
Right.
Who are you not to lead a retreat? Right? It also helps that this retreat is going to be in Morocco.
Hint, hint.
Spoiler
Dropping
alert.
all this. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Spring 2025.
Mark your calendars.
When we'll be going down to the desert.
And doing all of this type of work
Okay, anyway.
along with the business things.
Doing all this type of work. Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway.
This
yes,
is everything.
Very
Yeah,
exciting.
so we're very excited for this. This is, we're recording this May of 2024. So you'll be hearing more about this as it gets closer to spring of 2025.
Yes.
But in the meantime, we would love to share how, in the meantime, there will be some other things, I imagine, where you can catch both of us together. And I would love for you to share how can we stay in touch with you. If you have any gifts, anything like that, please feel free to share that now.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you asked, because I was actually thinking before our session here, what could I offer to your followers, your listeners? And I was thinking that I would like to offer a discount if anybody wants to actually have a private session for anything. It doesn't have to be just about the business, but because this podcast is particularly about the business, that would be great. So I think the form that would show up in, is there some way that they could just reach out to me?
Yeah, we'll include your information.
Let me know that they're coming off of this podcast.
In the show notes, we'll have all your info. So do you want them to go to your website, to social media, so where would you like them to go to actually contact you?
Yeah, they can go to either, I'm just going to go ahead and give my email, because that's probably the quickest and most personal. So it's Zani.Yve at Zani.Yve.com.
It will be in the show notes.
Okay, you know what? Look at the show notes, because now I'm having a little bit of a mental fog at all
what's my email
all my
address?
actual.
I don't recall.
Yeah, I know, because I don't usually just give it out, and I thought, oh, okay. But I'm also on Instagram, Zani.Yve, Intuitive Soul Coach.
Can you spell Eve?
And also on Facebook. YVE. So it's Zani, ZANI.YVE, Intuitive Soul Coach.
Instagram and Facebook.
And so I'll be there at Instagram, and Facebook. And that's probably the best way. Just send a message. Tell me, that you heard our wonderful exchange here. And then, emails and whatever will be. All the other links will be available.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Had chills many times in the conversation, so I'm really excited for everybody else to hear it. Thank you for being here today, and you will see
Thank you
more
so
of us
much.
together in the future.
Yes, absolutely. Way to go. Thank you.